Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Spruce Sports Central. Today, I'm going to be going over my Week 5 UFL power ranking. Starting off briefly recapping Week 4, the Panthers dominated the Showboats, winning 27-9. The Renegades beat the Battlehawks 30-15. The Stallions escaped the Roughnecks, winning 23-16. And the Brahmas upset the Defenders, winning 24-18. Getting into this week's rankings, beginning things at number 8, I've got the Showboats. So the Showboats, they remain at number 8 or last in my power rankings after they got destroyed by the Panthers, losing 27-9. The Showboats' offense was terrible, with just 9 points and 150 total yards, and the only reason they scored a touchdown in this game is because their defense gave them the ball at the 20-yard line after a blocked punt. But the offense was terrible for the Showboats, and I think a big reason why was their quarterback rotation. EJ Perry and Troy Williams were both essentially alternating drives, and because of that, it really never allowed either quarterback to get into a rhythm. It also didn't help that they couldn't extend a drive past like 5 plays. But the offense was not good for the Showboats. They ended the game with just 87 passing yards and an interception, and on the ground they weren't much better, with 70 rushing yards on 2.8 yards per carry. Then defensively for the Showboats, they also weren't good, allowing 27 points and 369 total yards, and they could not stop the run, allowing 169 rushing yards. But the Showboats, they look terrible. They really need to figure out the quarterback position and stick to playing one of Troy Williams or EJ Perry, and definitely not both. But the Showboats, they're now 0-4. They're the only winless team in the UFL, and I've got them at number 8. Coming in at number 7, I've got the Brahmas. The Brahmas enter at number 7 after they upset the Defenders 24-18 for their first win of the season. The Brahmas, they played pretty well for the second straight week, but this time they were actually able to get the win. The offense looked pretty good, and they did it against a great Defenders defense. They had a season-high 24 points, and quarterback Kellen Mond was okay, with 121 yards and a touchdown. And he did what he needed to do for the Brahmas. They also ran the ball fairly effectively with 98 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the Brahmas defense also played pretty well, holding the defenders to just 18 points, and they got a big stop to seal the game, although they did allow over 400 yards. Overall, the defense, they played pretty well and got some big stops when they needed to. And the Brahmas, they also had the first return touchdown of the season, as Matthew Sexton returned a punt 83 yards for a score. But the Brahmas, they got their first win of the season, and they did under interim head coach Peyton Party, and the Brahmas, they're now 1-3, and I have them at number 7 in my power rankings. Number 6, I've got the Roughnecks. The Roughnecks come in at number 6 after they lost to the Stallions 23-16. But despite the loss, the Roughnecks, they weren't terrible, and their offense was actually pretty good, as they had over 320 yards, and they appear to have found their quarterback moving forward. Nolan Henderson got the start, but left the game early with a shoulder injury, and Jalen McClendon took over, and he was great. McClendon completed 71% of his passes for 236 yards and an interception, and he also had 17 yards and a touchdown on the ground. But Jalen McClendon played well, the offense moved the ball effectively, and he should definitely be the Roughnecks quarterback moving forward. Receiver Justin Hall also had a nice game with 6 catches for 58 yards. And the Roughnecks defense wasn't great, but they forced a couple turnovers, although they did allow 23 points and over 350 yards. But the Roughnecks, despite the loss, they have found their quarterback, which is really big for them moving forward because maybe they can be a competitive team and actually win some games. But the Roughnecks, despite the loss, they had some good things this week. They found their quarterback moving forward. I've got them at number 6 in my power rankings. 5th, I've got the Battlehawks. The Battlehawks fall to number 5 after they lost to the Renegades 30-15, and the Battlehawks offense for the second straight week was held to just 15 points and under 200 yards. Quarterback Manny Wilkins got hurt early in the game, and he's now been placed on IR, and he'll be out for the foreseeable future. Backup quarterback and former TCU star Max Duggan replaced Manny Wilkins, although he did not play well, as Duggan went just 8 of 17 for 78 yards and 2 interceptions. He did have 42 yards as a runner, but he did not play too well. Now, Duggan wasn't helped out by bad offensive line play, as the offensive line struggled for the second straight week, but overall, Duggan, he just did not look right. The Battlehawks, they were solid on the ground with over 100 rushing yards, but the offense wasn't good, and they actually didn't score a touchdown because their one touchdown on the day came on a pick 6. Speaking of the defense for the Battlehawks, their defense kept them in this game. Willie Harvey had a huge pick 6 to cut the lead to 1 as they entered the fourth quarter, and the defense allowed just 209 yards, but it was the offense that really prevented the Battlehawks from getting the win. And I definitely still think this is a good Battlehawks team. I think as Max Duggan gets more comfortable and more experience in the offense, as the offensive line gets healthy, and once they get Hakeem Butler back, I still think this is going to be a good team. But after their 2-0 start, they're now 2-2, and I've got them down in number 5 in my power rankings.
Coming in at number 4, I've got the Panthers. The Panthers, they moved a spot to number 4 after they dominated the Showboats and won 27-9. The Panthers' offense was great, and quarterback Bryce Perkins had a really good game as both a passer and a runner, as he threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also had 45 yards on the ground. And the Panthers, they ran the ball really effectively, as they had 169 yards and 2 touchdowns on 5.1 yards per carry. And running backs Toa Tawa and Nate McCrary both hit over 50 yards and got in the end zone. Then the Panthers, on the defensive side of the ball, they were also great, although I do think it's more of the Showboats offense just that bad, as opposed to the Panthers were good, although the Panthers defense did play well, as they allowed just 9 points and 150 yards. But the Panthers, they look great in the win over the Showboats, and I've got them moving up to number 4 in my power ranking. Third, I have the Stallions. So the Stallions, they come in at number 3 after they defeated the Roughnecks 23-16. The Stallions' offense was a lot better this week as opposed to last week where they scored just 10 points, but this week they had 23 points and 357 total yards. Quarterback Matt Corral had a nice game with 195 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception, and he was also the game's leading rusher with 52 rushing yards. Although Corral did leave the game early with a hip injury, and he did not return. Although backup quarterback Case Cookus is more than capable of leading the Stallions' offense. The Stallions, they also ran the ball effectively with 126 yards on 4.3 yards a carry, and receiver Deion Kane had a nice game with 3 catches for 69 yards and a 50-yard score. Then the Stallions' defense didn't play their best game, allowing 328 yards, but they got a big interception to seal the win, and the Stallions, they improved to 3-1, and they've now won 3 straight after their Week 1 loss, and I've got the Stallions at number 3. Coming in at number 2, I've got the Defenders. So the Defenders fall to number 2 after they were upset with the Brahmas, losing 24-18. The Defenders' offense moved the ball really effectively with over 400 yards, but they had just 18 points to show for it. And finishing drives continues to be a problem for the Defenders, as they have now settled for a league-high 14 field goals through 4 weeks. Quarterback Jordan Tiamu played pretty well, as he had 299 passing yards and a passing touchdown, and he also had 74 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And the Defenders, they ran the ball effectively with 117 yards and a touchdown on 4 yards per attempt, but the Defenders, they really need to be able to finish their drives. Then the Defenders' defense, which had been dominant so far this season, wasn't great. They allowed a season-high 24 points and didn't get a single sack, and this is a defense that leads the league in sacks. But the Defenders are no longer undefeated, they're now 3-1, and they fall a spot to number 2 in my power ranking. And coming in at number 1, I've got the Renegades. The Renegades move up to number 1 after they convincingly beat the Battlehawks 30-15. The Renegades' defense dominated this game, they held the Battlehawks without a touchdown, and they allowed just 15 points. They also allowed just 156 total yards, and they forced 4 turnovers, returning 2 of them for touchdowns. Then the offense for the Renegades still wasn't amazing, but it was a lot better than what we've seen in the previous couple weeks. The Renegades' offense got in the end zone twice, and quarterback Luis Perez was solid with 149 yards and a touchdown, as well as an interception. And the Renegades, they were okay on the ground with 73 yards and a score. But the Renegades' defense continues to be a big reason why they're so good. We saw their defense score over half their points this week, and the Renegades, after their big win over the Battlehawks, they're now 3-1, and I've got them at number 1 in my power rankings. But those are my Week 5 UFL power rankings. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. And let me know in the comments if you agree with my power rankings, disagree, and why. Because there's a lot of teams you can argue for a bunch of different spots. Let me know who you see it in the comments below. That's all for this video. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.